Welcome to the Final Furlong podcast. I'm Emmet Kennedy. It is great to have your company and great to be joined by former jockey and lead analyst for RaceIQ data, Paige Fuller. Once again, welcome back to the show, Paige, after a hugely successful Cheltenham Festival. Great to have your insight again.
Well, thank you for having me back. I'm glad that I didn't put you off from having me on the last time. So it's nice to have the chance to chat about all the data again, for sure.
I'm still a little bit blown away by the fact that was your first podcast appearance. You were an absolute star and you provided us with some really interesting talking points as well, which I'm sure you're going to do for us with a view to the Aintree Grand National Meeting as well. We're going to begin our analysis of Aintree with a look at the manifesto Novice Chasers. There's certainly some very interesting entries as we record on Friday, the 5th of April. Who really catches your eye though, Paige?
Well, it's quite tricky, isn't it? Because they've stuck a whole load of horses in this that actually might not run in this, because obviously you've got Founder 50 and Elette Tom, who obviously ran in the Arkle. Will they go for this or the Maggle, however you pronounce it? But yeah, it's quite a good talking point. And for all your listeners who didn't actually catch the show pre-Cheltenham, I just want to quickly explain next game jumping as well for those people. So a lot of the RaceIQ data we've been doing is around sort of jumping data and trying to work out how well a horse is compared in a race against its rivals jumping fences. And we have designated an envelope and measured lots of speed metrics and stuff like that, which hopefully can help you out. And actually it's quite an interesting race from that respect, because actually we look at Ginny's Destiny, who is an exceptional jumper, but actually even though he jumps really well, he still couldn't beat Grey Dawning at Cheltenham. Like, actually looking back on that Turner's Chase, I think Ginny's Destiny gained just over 13 lengths through his jumping, and Grey Dawning only 12. And actually, he still couldn't get near him. So if those two lined up again, especially on slightly more testing ground, I just couldn't see that changing at all. And I'm really sorry that
you weren't. Paige was not kidding, by the way. We've had a ridiculous amount of technical difficulties in the setting up of the show. All of them on my end. And Paige did say, well, don't worry, because my neighbours are drilling. I have no idea what they're doing, but they only drill as I start talking. And the second we start recording, that's the first time I've heard that drill. And we've been chatting for half an hour. Like, thanks, Paige's neighbours. Thanks a lot.
Did you catch that, though?
Yeah, oh yeah, I got your insight, and I also got the sound of that bloody drill.
Sorry. I can't see Ginny's Destiny and Grey Dawning, if they both turned up, turning it round again. I think it's quite interesting that they've stuck Corbett's Cross in here. They've also, I think, stuck him in the bowl too. But even though he won the National Hunt Chase at Cheltenham, he actually posted the fastest final furlong of the whole festival over fences. So he posted a final furlong of 15.56 seconds. So he's clearly not short of speed either. It's quite an interesting entry. I thought that. I'm sure he won't run in this race, but I just sort of wanted to use it as an opportunity to drop that one in there.
One horse that I did want to ask you about, because he's already been jocked up with Charlie Deutsch in the plate, and that's Jello. It might sound like an odd thing to say about a horse who's already performed with credit over this distance, but I actually think he's better suited to a shorter trip. Was there anything notable about his RaceIQ data behind Grey Dawning and Ginny's Destiny at the Cheltenham Festival? And is there anything that would tell you, as a former jockey and looking at that data, that perhaps his best days will be seen drop back in trip?
Honestly, no. I think the data to me, to be honest, I was looking at this earlier because I remember you picking up on him at the sort of pre-Cheltenham stage. And looking at the raw data, he just doesn't look good enough. Like, his top speed was not quite as high as Grey Dawning and Ginny's Destiny. All of the metrics, he was just losing slightly more speed over his fences on average, just gaining slightly less lengths on average, but not performing badly by any respect. Just that he didn't look as good a horse, basically, is all I could say there, really. So yeah, unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to sway me there. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. To be honest, I don't see any plausible reason as to why he would turn the form around with Ginny's Destiny, and certainly not with Grey Dawning. But he's a horse that I'm interested in going forward. More for Paddy Power Gold Cup at the beginning of next season. Don't blow his handicap, Mark Venetia. You've got a chance there, I think. And 148, I think we'll underestimate him going forward, but Don't blow it, Venetia. Who is the horse that interests you most from a betting perspective for the first race of Aintree 2024, the Manifesto?
From a betting perspective, that's a really difficult one, because I just think it's going to be a very similar story to the Turners again, personally. I just think it's going to be those two at the head of the market. Because again, like even looking at Founder 50, I think he should be in the mag call as well, because he actually posted the highest top speed of the whole festival, but he just couldn't quite stay with Gaelic Warrior at the end. And I think that if it was a staying race again, which Ginny, Cessny and Grey Dawning will turn it into, I don't think he'll quite stay. So, you know, it's one of those where I think it's between those two again, really. I suppose Imagine, it will be interesting how Imagine runs for Harry Durham. He's in there, isn't he? But again, we haven't seen enough of him and we don't know enough about the change. So, yeah. Nickelback's performed very well. I mean, I could cover the whole field. I mean, that's the beauty of these Novice Chasers, isn't it?
Well, Nickelback was definitely better suited to running. Sorry, I just realised I cut across you there very rudely, but I suppose that's what.
No, that's okay.
That's the radio training cutting in to drive the conversation forward as the neighbours decide to kick off once again. Like he was definitely better suited to the dynamic of the Sandown track and the way that race panned out, with James Best being able to get an easy lead and really dominate proceedings against Jello, who I think is given a pass for that in the sense that he'd been wiped out in the first fence in the Lightning Novices Chase at Lingfield, and I'd say Venetia Williams and Charlie were just happy to get him round and build the confidence back up again. So I wouldn't necessarily take his form literally, and it's not a race that you really want to look back on given what happened to poor old Hermes Allen, but you can't underestimate what he did there. I just wonder if this race will work out in the same way for him, and I'm not underestimating him at all. I just don't know if this race will suit him. But he is a horse who's coming in fresh, and that can be a very big advantage to some horses.
Definitely, for sure.
We'll move on to the older horses, the Aintree Bowl. Same day, 3 Mile 1. Jerry Calam. I'm sure somebody made the Jerry and the Pacemakers line playing at Liverpool last year when Jerry Calam won the Novice Chase, so I can't steal that from whoever it is that came up with that genius line, but 2-1 seems very, very big about the horse who only found Galopin des Champs too good for him in the Gold Cup. Although, as I say that, I can't help but notice that your head is kind of moving from one side to the other, and I don't know if that's an endorsement or I'm not so sure about this fella.
I'm not so sure about this fella.
Tell me more.
No, I don't think this track will suit him as well as Cheltenham did. I think Cheltenham, on that ground, his style of jumping is very slow, and we definitely touched on it moving into Cheltenham, that he lands quite statically, and he actually he probably threw away his Brown Advisory win last year through his jumping. And I just worry that 3 Mile 2 at Cheltenham on testing ground is suited to horses like that, but actually Aintree over 3 miles is quite a lot sharper. And again, my neighbours must hate me. Apologies. Switching every time.
She's talking again. Drill, lads.
Sorry. But yeah, sorry, I can't. But yeah, I just worry that he'll get caught out around Aintree. Even though he's going to get the softer ground, you know, he gave away. Galopin des Champs is not the world's quickest jumper, and he gave away about 8 lengths to Galopin through his jumping at Cheltenham. So yes, okay, I don't think that got him beat, but he certainly should have been a lot closer. And I just really, I'm still in a Shiftskin camp. He won this last year. Yes, he's got to have got over whatever illness that Henderson has, which clearly isn't going away very quickly. But I'm such a big Shiftskin fan. I think he'll take a bit of beating here.
Yeah, so I'm a huge Shishkin fan as well. I am now. I don't think I was ever a Shishkin fan. If you're a long-time listener to the Final Furlong podcast, and we've been doing audio for a whole lot longer than ever YouTube, and we're very grateful to everybody who's watching us on YouTube. But if you've listened to me over the years, I don't know what it is about this fella. I admired what he was doing, but I never really warmed to. I never backed him. Never placed a bet on him until the King George. Great timing, Kennedy. Great timing indeed. Maybe that was the reason that bizarre thing happened to him 2 out. But I was really keen on him for the Gold Cup until the whole Nicky Henderson couldn't train a winner, couldn't buy a winner started to emerge. And obviously he didn't line up then in the end anyway. It's not gotten better. Like an even money winner of a Mayor's Novice Hurdle at Ludlow, I mean, that's not changing things. So you still have to be concerned about Nicky's stable form, and the intention is to run him. Nico's already jocked up. Hopefully he can. But horses who ran in the King George have got a great record in this race, and horses who come here fresh have got a very good record as well. And Nicky has had a horse like Might Bite. The last thing he ever did before his form took a major decline, and he ended up running in cross-country races, was have that gutbuster in the Gold Cup against Native River and then win this race. So Nicky is more than capable of producing horse to win if he's okay. I just don't know if this is going to suit him, Paige. If he's fine, I'd be very, very sweet on him, but 3-1, given the state of Nicky's horses. If he starts banging in the winners over the weekend, we're having a very different conversation. But until that happens, I can't part with cash on him right now.
No, and I think it's that sort of race, isn't it, where, because we don't even know what the ground's going to do. We've got most of the jumps meetings off today and tomorrow, which are just bonkers in April, really. And we don't know, it could be soft ground. And, you'd love to say, oh, Hewitt's got a great chance. But does he? We don't know. Again, Thunder Rock, it's going to be a very different race running on good stuff around Kelso over 3 miles to Aintree on pretty testing ground. And I think it's definitely going to be a wait to see till Tuesday kind of race to bet on, isn't it? Because, I think a lot can change for this race in the next week.
We'll be covering this live on TalkSport 2, which I'm very much looking forward to. All the major races from the Aintree Grand National Meeting live on TalkSport 2 on Racing Live. Hewitt might run because they didn't, they bypassed Cheltenham, but he bypassed Cheltenham because the ground wasn't going to suit, and this ground won't suit him either. And Shark Hanlon, when he was on the show in December, just said, if it's soft ground, the wheels won't spin. I'm paraphrasing, but it was along those lines. So he's got no chance on this ground. Banbridge has absolutely no chance. Don't know what the hell he was even doing running in the Ryanair, because the people I were talking to who had walked the course were telling me this is worse than the official going description. Look, they rolled the dice, fair play to them, but it didn't work, and this won't work either if the ground is as it is. To put a button on this, if you're prepared to take on Jerry Colomb at the current price that he is, 2-1, which I still think is fair, by the way, and he did win at this meeting last year, so he's proven that he can bounce out from a big race at Cheltenham to go and win. That was a hard race in the Gold Cup, and if there is still the doubts about Nicky Henderson's stable form, which would be a major concern from Shishkin, if he's banging in winners, I'm on the Shishkin train. I'm right there with you. But aside from those two, is there anything else that we should be looking at for the Bull?
See, again, I think, he's unproven, but I think Thunder Rock could be an interesting contender. He's a strong jumper. He's very unexposed over this trip. And I just think that he could be the one who has the most potential to jump in, if you know what I mean. But I'd love to say Hoy Senor, he ran really well last year. Again, the softer ground might slow everything else down. But everyone's I don't know, bless him, banked him a little bit, hasn't he? He hasn't had too many excuses recently, and he's still not. He looks like he's regressing slightly. So, the only other positive is Thunder Rock, who, in his jumping, he gained nearly 10 lengths. He gained 9.5 lengths jumping at Kelso. So, he's a strong jumper. He'll travel. He's got the potential, in my opinion.
Ella McNeil is getting very, very excited with what you just said and punching the air with delight as she listens to this episode, driving to another race day TV gig. Hello, Ella. Hope all is well. Best of luck with them. And Ollie Murphy's horses are obviously in flying form as well. And Sean Bones having a season of all seasons, as Jerry Hannon would say. Brave Man's game is gone. That goal. I know that there is a narrative out there that the Gold Cup doesn't break horses. No, it doesn't break special horses like Galopin Des Champs. It broke him. He hasn't been the same since. And you can keep deluding yourself that it's not that. It's that hard race as he has not bounced back from it at all. And it's the only thing that makes any sense in my mind. To the hurdlers and the Aintree Hurdle, the betting is dominated by Irish horses. No surprise given what happened at Cheltenham. Bob Allinger is the 2-1 market leader for very strong Henry de Bromhead team by the sounds of things. Seems as though both Henry and Gordon have decided, well, we can't beat Willie at Punchestown, so we'll beat the British at Aintree. So that's going to be fun. Again, all races live on TalkSport 2. Bob Ollinger in and around 2-1, as short as 11-8, so shop around. Irish Point might very well go further. He's a 5-2 shot. And Impere Pass, a horse who skipped Cheltenham, but you go back to his early season form, He's beaten by Tihupu in the Hatton's Grace, who goes on to win a championship hurdle race at the Cheltenham Festival. He's then beaten by Stateman in the Matheson Hurdle, who goes on to win a championship race at the Cheltenham Festival. And you can ignore his run in the Irish Champion Hurdle because Daryl Jacob made the running on him that day, and Daryl was the first one to say he hated every second of it. And if he's back to his best, Paige Fuller, he could be really interesting here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this horse. I think he looks like he wants a bit further as well. I mean, he won the Bearing Bingham last year, so we know he wants 2.5. And he got beaten, as you say, by a Grade 1 winning hurdler next time. The only other time that he's run over 2.5 miles. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of this horse. The jumping data stacks up behind him. He's an effective jumper. And I just think he's a little less exposed than the others. All of the form ties in behind Stateman, really, for most of these horses. But as we've already mentioned on the show, he comes here fresh as well. And I think that will really help him.
He's arguably the most interesting novice chaser for next season, and he didn't even run at Cheltenham. He's quoted at 20-1 with various different firms for the Arkle and for the Turners, and I think that's massively big. If you could figure out which race he's going to go for, given his form, he buried Gaelic Warrior last season in what is now the Gallagher Novices Hurdle, and we saw what Gaelic Warrior did in the Arkle. He's a serious racehorse. I wouldn't underestimate Bob Ollinger, but what does the RaceIQ data tell us about him?
Yeah, look, I mean, he is the best. He's the best on paper, really, isn't he? His form ties in really well. Cheltenham, he won really impressively that day. He quickened up. I mean, his finishing speed percentage that day was about 112%. So to have that speed at Cheltenham on soft ground, he's kind of got everything. But yeah, look, I mean, he is an old boy as well. There's a reason why he's not cut the mustard right at the top level as well. As he has obviously got some good wins behind him, but I just think some of these are slightly more exposed. That's why I'm just hoping that Parapass will just come in and be that star quality in this race.
Yeah, Racing Post ratings have Parapass on 163 in this race. They have Bob Ollinger on 165. So it will be a fascinating race, but I would be inclined to go with Parapass, and I think skipping Cheltenham with both of these horses will pay dividends. I imagine they'll be first and second, but it's going to be a cracking race. The Aintree is shaping up to be a really, really fascinating meeting this year, but the race that we're all keen to get your insights in, because if RaceIQ data will tell us anything, hopefully it's pointing us in the direction of who's going to win the Grand National. The betting is headed by last year's winner for Scotland, Corrick Rambler. It's Scotland and Ireland have dominated the last 7 renewals of the Grand National. Lucinda Russell 7 years ago with one for Arthur, last year with Corrick Rambler. Can he go back-to-back, though? It's not the easiest of things to do. Noble Yates couldn't do it last year. Tiger Roll could, despite his diminutive size. Does Corrick Rambler have the minerals to go back-to-back in the Grand National off a mark of 159?
Oh, I think everyone will be hoping, but I think we were chatting beforehand, and it's a tough old race for him to bounce back from, isn't it for him? Like, his jumping is tailor-made for Aintree. Like, he is such a good jumper. Like, even in the Betfair Chase when he was running against only 3 other horses, he still managed to gain 7 lengths through his jumping on them. And he was flat out. Like, you kind of go, how does a horse manage to do that when he doesn't look in his comfort zone? But jumping is just so good for him. And even in the Gold Cup, like, Galopin Des Champs jumped well for Galopin Des Champs, but Corrick Rambler still gained like 6 lengths more than Galopin Des Champs through the Gold Cup through his jumping. And again, he was flat out. Like, how does he do it? And I think it just goes to show, actually, even though his first run at Kelso was disappointing, he's been in pretty good form this season, and it's kind of hard to actually fault him, really. I don't know what you think.
No, I would agree with that. I think we're going to have to remember this for next season. Please God, touch wood, we'll all be fit, well, happy and healthy. Just ignore Lucinda Russell's horses early in the season. People are already talking about, Giovinco could be a really interesting one for the Coral Gold Trophy. Don't touch him with counterfeit. He'll go for the Ultima, and that's when you'll see him at his best. They're best at the spring, but they just don't fire at all in the autumn and winter. And that was kind of the viewpoint that I was taking with Corrick Rambler early on. Just ignore all of this. Don't worry about the fact that he's been beaten by Elvis Mal. Don't worry about the fact that he's been beaten 15 lengths in a Betfair. And to be fair to everybody who was putting him up for the Gold Cup, you've got the each way money. He's run an absolute blinder there. Would he have placed had Fast or Slow stood up? Who knows? We'll never know. But he's run an absolute monstrous race. I just think that was a real gut-busting Gold Cup. And if we're going to mention that for Jerry Colomb, then we have to mention it for him, because we're not talking about a 10-1 shot or a 20-1 shot in the Grand National here. We're talking about a 5-1 shot. And thanks to Paul Ferguson, with one of our commercial partners, Weatherby's, and the Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide, which also includes the stats for Aintree, 13 of the last 15 winners of the Grand National were having their first start in the race. It's a difficult thing to be able to go back-to-back. Tiger Roll did it. Obviously, Red Rum was an absolute monster of a racehorse, but I think he's been very leniently treated off 159. So he's been done a favour by the handicapper. But that was a tough race, though, and that would linger in my mind.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned ratings as well, because obviously Vanillier's like £9 better off this year on the ratings, isn't he? And it's going to be really interesting to see how he takes to the fences this year with a run under his belt, because I think his jumping was not very good last year. Like Correct Rambler gained like 12.5 lengths through his jumping last year, unsurprisingly, because it's Correct. But Vanillier lost like over 5 lengths through his jumping. And so he had like a 17 length swing through his jumping and made up about 10 lengths up the running and couldn't quite ping him back. I don't know. Part of me goes, this horse, and, you know, the Cromwell team will have had him spot on, and, you know, he's got, I don't know. I'm really torn over him. I don't know what you think, but yeah, I'm torn over him.
Oh, I can't have him. First of all, he's running the race already. He's not an original horse. He's well found in the market. He's a 10-1 shot. I backed this fella for the potato race. Donkey's ears. Why am I mentioning that? Why am I doing a flex? And Brian, I backed him at a massive price that day. Because I'm not backing him in this. I don't think he can do it. I think he was given a very, very canny ride in the Grand National last year by Sean Flanagan. And I know some people were being a bit smart afterwards and saying he should have put him into the race earlier. I think if he had, he'd have bombed out. I think he needs to be ridden that way, and that means he needs all the luck in the world. So I'm looking for something at a bigger price, and the RaceIQ data is telling us to go and look elsewhere as well. Plus, the record of horses who've run in the race previously isn't great. I Am Maximus, though, the record of Irish Grand National winners is very, very good. But I Am Maximus is a tricky horse. Whoever's going to be on him, whether it's Paul Townend or I would imagine Mark Walsh, it should be his choice. Mark didn't ride him in the Irish Grand National, though, last year. Jody McGarvey got a great tune out of him when he beat Found to 50. That form has obviously worked out well at Cheltenham, and he's absolutely destroyed Vanillier the last day. But he's an awkward horse, Paige.
Yeah, I think where the Grand National fences aren't that testing anymore, like you can get away with going through the top of them. I just think this horse is going to terrify himself, because he's so careful, isn't he? Like, he's not an unsafe jumper. He just really finds a stride right at the bottom of the fence, and I just don't think you can do that around Aintree. I mean, he literally hasn't gained a length jumping this season, because I think his figures are like -3.5, minus nearly 15 lengths, minus nearly 9 lengths, minus nearly 5 lengths, and you're like, it's not because he's not safe. He just jams on, doesn't he? And actually, from the flip side, the horse that doesn't jam on is actually really slick, and is actually on average has scored. Well, he scored the least average speed loss in a race when he won the Scottish Grand National last year, and that was Kitty's Light. Like, he's a really slick jumper, and he showed that it wasn't just a one-off, because in the Bet365 chase as well, he turns up in like the top 10 kind of performances of the runners in the race as well. And I know that he might not get in, but I just think Kitty's Light he's a really slick jumper. And I think for the same reason why Correct Rambler is actually really good over these fences, I don't think you want a careful jumper anymore. But that's just my opinion.
I would agree with that. I also would have slight doubts about the ground. And somebody was saying to me, I better not say who, but somebody was saying to me, this would be Langer Dan-esque if Kitty's Light comes out and wins the Grand National, beaten 44 lengths, 33 lengths, 35 lengths, 54 lengths by Harry Durham's horse back in November, and suddenly, oh, look, he's improved. Oh, no, he's fine. What's everybody so panicked about? I really like the horse, and this is his time of year. This is when the horse excels. Ground would be an issue. It would need to dry up pretty quickly, and there's a massive storm on its way, so don't know if that's going to work out. It'd be really harsh if he doesn't get in. And with Captain Bringdown and the Buzzkillers now announcing that they're ending their protests against racing, Which I can't help but feel this is just trying to lure us into a false sense of security, and then they're going to swamp Aintree on the days. Like, we know what you're doing. Oh yeah, we're not going to attack racing. Queue 1,000 people trying to get in. Having reduced the field size to 34, if that then means that a serious horse like Kitty's Light doesn't get into the Grand National side, that's ridiculous. Do you have any data on Mahler Mission for John McConnell? Because his form from earlier in the season is really good. And you mentioned Thunder Rock as being a potentially interesting one for the Bowl. Obviously, he came a cropper against him at Carlisle at the beginning of the season, but that form in hindsight looks quite good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think because a lot of it's relative, you know, he hasn't run against a lot of these horses before, but he stands up absolutely fine. Like he's always gaining a length jumping. His average speed lost is fairly normal, you know, all of those sorts of things, which suggest that actually, yeah, there shouldn't be any sort of problem with him taking to these fences at all. So look, I wouldn't oppose you. Obviously, you know, he hasn't run since the whatever it is, Hennessy, not the Hennessy.
133 days ago by the time the race comes around.
But then, you know, that's the sort of master that someone like John McConnell is, isn't it? He's very good at sort of placing his horses. So yeah, I can't see why he wouldn't have a chance. And let's say he stood up well in that Hennessy Gold Cup. So you just never know.
Out of all the entries for the Grand National, who are you, as the lead analyst for RaceIQ data and as a former jockey, most looking forward to seeing in action?
So probably more from the former jockey side than the lead analyst, but I will say he has got good form behind him as well. His Late Night Pass, like, just because I think for that whole story of the Andrewses and the Ellises, and you know, I don't know, he was quite impressive at Cheltenham, and I think it would be very silly to not think that this horse is going to be right there at the end. You know, he certainly looks like he's got the handicap spot on. Nice little run over hurdles just to blow the cobwebs out last time. But I think you'd be inhuman if you didn't think that story. I mean, he recorded like a finishing speed percentage of 118% at Cheltenham, which means that he got the trip very, very convincingly. And so yeah, I think he could help the dream stay true for them.
I was not expecting you to say 33 to 1 shot Late Night Pass, which is why my facial expression... Another reason why I prefer doing this via audio as opposed to camera staring you in the face is like my poker face is clearly terrible. Of the graded races page that we talked about, who's the one horse you're looking forward to seeing in action most?
Imperial Pass. I'm really excited to see how he steps up, to be honest. I think he looks like a really smart horse, and I think he could look a smart horse again.
Well, if there's one thing British racing needs, it's Willie Mullins winning a Grade 1 at one of the big jumps fixtures, because that's really what the game needs desperately. A race that should be dominated by Irish horses. Paige, I've really enjoyed this insight from you yet again. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your expert insight as well. And hopefully, I know you're going to be doing an awful lot of stuff for the flat, so hopefully we'll get some insight from you for the flat for RaceIQ Date as well.
Sounds good to me. Thanks so much.
On the Final Furlong podcast, we're going to switch our attention to something a little bit different. I'm delighted to say that we're joined once again on the show by former dual champion jockey Paul Hanagan. Paul, welcome back to the Final Furlong podcast.
It's great to see you, Emmet. Great to be back on.
Great to see you too, my friend. And it means that the flat is very much... I should be saying it's here because it has started, but it's a bit of a confusing time with All Other Champions Day, and we've still got the Grand National and Punchestown to come, so we're a little bit distracted flat-wise. But I'm very keen to talk to you about the potential of City of Troy winning the Triple Crown. But I'd like to do that in a few weeks, if you don't mind, because the reason I have you on the show today is to talk about the Good Racing Company and specifically the Graham Lee Syndicate. He suffered horrendous injuries last year, unspeakable injuries, really, when you think about it. And Graham is such a popular figure, not only within the racing community, but amongst fans as well. He means so much to so many people. And you were doing something really quite remarkable to try and raise much needed funds for him. Tell us more about it.
I don't know how to describe it, really. When I found out about his accident, just numb, really. Still have it for what happened to him. He's a very dear friend of mine. We got quite close over the years, and you know, being in the weighing room together, and you know, the weighing room was getting younger and younger every day, and you know, we become quite good friends. So when I heard of his accident, I was shocked. Obviously, I've been to see him quite a few times now, and what happened was we just had a get off on. He was the CEO of the Good Racing Company, and we've kind of been through this stuff and done stuff and raised funds. For example, the Borough Racing Club, and Rob Burrow had MND, of course. We managed to raise over £200,000 for him, and we kind of says, let's go and let's do it for Graham. And we decided to set up the Graham Lee Racing Club. I have some very wonderful people to thank. But without them, two people, Steve and Wendy Burdett, who actually gifted us the horse. And we've got Spillers Feeds, Minster Vets, the farrier, even Craig Litz, the training. It's all free, and we decided to get it all together. And we're going to try and raise as much as we can for Graham.
The horse has been gifted to you. The trainer is going to waive his fees, and even the feed is being looked after. I mean, if we can reach out to the BHA and get the entry fees given to you for free, maybe. Don't worry, BHA. We'll criticize you about a lot, but we won't go quite that far. But that's extraordinary generosity, and I guess it really just goes to show. First of all, I mean, you put your body on the line every single day for our entertainment. And I know you were well rewarded for your career, and I know you loved it to your very core, and you still love it to your core. I could say the same about every other jockey who rides in the UK and Ireland. But the risk is very, very real, and it's all too real when you see what happened to Graham. But the fact that so many people are giving up not only their time, but their resources and their money to make this happen before anybody has joined the syndicate, that must give you immense pride and also huge hope.
Immense pride, yeah. It still makes you, there is so many good people still out there, isn't there? We live in a world now where it can be quite tough some days. So when something like this happens, it's a good feeling. I think it really hit home to me, probably more than most, after my bad fall at Newcastle, and how lucky I was to get away with it. And Graham just wasn't that lucky as I was, and it's just so. And as I say, everyone's still numb. But as I say, we're all rallying round, and things like this can only be good. So we've had so much support of so many people, and the memberships are coming in so fast now, which is amazing to see.
I had to confirm this with you beforehand, what the amount of money is for the annual membership, because whenever a syndicate is mentioned, and Ross Millar managed to close off his syndicate with Final Furlong podcast listeners joining up, which is fantastic. And well, they're on the gravy train now, quite frankly. They're fielding offers from big owners for Roger. The annual membership, though, for this, which can only be described as an incredibly worthy cause that will make you feel good. You just tell the listeners yourself, tell the viewers yourself, how much annual membership to the Graham Lee Racing Club is.
Yeah, it's so the yearly membership is £17. One of the reasons for that is it was Graham Lee's winning Grand National winning ride number, and I just wanted everyone behind it. £17, as we say, is no really stretch to the limit, but more about what it means to Graham. It's his favourite number, and I just thought, let's do it. Let's get as many people as we can behind, and it's affordable, and it means so much to Graham. So a few people have said the same. It's 17, it's not 7017. Yeah, it's fantastic.
How do Final Furlong podcast viewers and listeners take advantage of this? Help out Graham. Where do they go to sign up?
So you can go to the Good Racing Company, the website, goodracing.co. All details are on there. I mean, it's actually major at the minute. If you can go to my Instagram account, and there's actually a picture on there where you can scan, and that takes you directly to the Graham Lee page. But I would just advise, just go to thegoodracing.co. And all information is on there.
I'm not quite sure how the Good Racing Company managed to work this out. I thought it was tech savvy, but it's not .co.uk. It's actually just .co, which is genius because it's Good Racing Company. So goodracing.co will get you there. You just Google the Good Racing Company either, and you'll go straight there too. How is Graham?
Graham obviously has his ups and downs, which you can fully understand. But I was admirer of him for a long time. I loved my jump racing as when I was young, and when he switched codes, that's when we become a lot closer and friends. To see him now, I'm even more inspired. An absolute inspiration to be. Has some days to hold a normal conversation with him. It's absolutely inspiring and amazing, and it really spurs me on to do as best as we can for him. He's got a long road ahead of him, but hopefully there is some hope there.
It's sad when somebody who is as fit and as active and as incredibly talented as he was is reduced to that. It's not fair. The world's not fair, and that's something you come to realize the older you get. And it's not to diminish anybody going through anything, because I think that there's a lot of people going through some very hard times right now. But when you see what happened to Graham and how he is responding to it, it really does put things into perspective. I greatly admire him. There was a photograph that Derek Thompson put up of himself getting to see Graham the other day. And I think Derek has been a great supporter of his, as of many in the racing community, of course yourself as well. But I really admire how he is putting himself out there and allowing those pictures on social media and letting people see him, because that's not what he had in mind when he went out to ride that day. You have to grab life by the horns if you can, and try and take full advantage of every single day that you get. I really admire him, and I really admire you for doing this. Just very briefly on the horse, should ask, I'm sure people are just going to sign up anyway because it's a good deed and it's a great thing to do and a great thing to be part of. But of the horse herself, tell me a little bit about her.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, I've had a few sleepless nights because to pick the actual horse for the Graham Lee Racing Club. So she caught my eye a while ago. She's big scopy filly, who's probably going to be looking at running after May time, maybe 6 and 7 furlongs as such. But she's a filly by Invincible Army. It's a brief mill, or Miss Brief, sorry. And she was the dam of 7 winners and 4 pattern winners. So she's got a great mind, and that really came into stance on Wednesday, which was the launch day. There was a lot of people there, and she just took it all in and just posed for the pictures. And I just thought, yeah, all you've got to do now is, I'm not asking much, but you've got the perfect mind. So yeah, she's fantastic, and she's starting to show potential without any questions of her. She's coming to hand really nicely, and it's been really nice to see, especially the last month. So we're all looking forward to getting her on track.
What was the one thing that really stood out to you most about her?
It was probably she started off looking probably, these big fillies weak early on. She really came to hand the last couple of months. And, when you just keep an eye on these horses, you just start to see them really flourish and grow. She's really matured well. And a little secret, I actually had to sit on her myself one day. And you'll do for me. And hopefully she just keeps improving. I'm sure she will. I'm sure she won't let us down.
Fantastic. For those who do sign up, and I hope you're inundated with requests, and hopefully this episode contributes to that. I know we've got great people who watch and listen to the Final Furlong podcast, and I know they'll want to support in any way they can. How will race day tickets or involvement work? Is there some kind of a lottery for people to be able to go and see her? Will there be an opportunity for people to go and see her at her trainer's yard?
Yes. What happens is it's so many things involved. You get a digital membership by email confirming your membership. You get stable visits. You get competitions. You get to follow the horse. I think days itself you would probably be in a ballot because there'll be so many people in the club that wouldn't stop you going to support her. It would just be a case of maybe getting in the parade ring and such. So there's so many fantastic stuff that comes with it. It's, as I say, trained by Craig Lidster. He's in Wold, so they've got fantastic facilities there for owners. So I think it's really exciting stuff.
We've got this. Shares are available now for the Graham Lee Racing Club. You can find out more at thegoodracing.co, thegoodracing.co, or just Google The Good Racing Company. It pops up. Literally, there's a pop-up for the Graham Lee Racing Club once you click onto the website. It will give you all the information that Paul has already eloquently given you. There's a lovely photograph of Graham with his family as well. I know his daughter is heavily involved too.
Yes, Amy and me were there on Wednesday morning at the launch, and it was just fantastic to see. And I'm glad I probably should have mentioned the name myself. You've got this, but it just kind of sets me off again, like I did at the launch on Wednesday. It's very emotional when you speak because it's very personal, and obviously the horse is called We've Got This because that was one of the first things Becky Lee said to her husband Graham after the accident. So I think it's an absolute wonderful name.
Amazing people. And you're a good friend, and you're really, really good to do this as well. I hope this is a huge success. I really do. I hope you're inundated. I hope the website crashes. There's so many people flooding in to try and join. I'm sure the IT team have it all worked out beforehand. £17 a year. That's all it is. £17 and you're sorted. And hey, I'm sure you'll get the opportunity to see the horse, but even if you don't, you're still going to be involved in something that's incredible, and you're getting to see a racehorse that you're a part of, raising much needed funds for Graham, and know that you're contributing to it too. You're getting enjoyment out of being able to contribute to something really, really special and really, really important. £17 for the year to be involved in something really great. The Graham Lee Racing Club, and We've Got This. She's a beautiful horse, by the way. She's a lovely star on her forehead and then a white face as well. She's a beautiful, beautiful horse. I'm sure she'll be a lovely broodmare in time, and hopefully she'll have won bucket loads in the meantime and boosted that profile too. Thegoodracing.co catches me out, this one. Thegoodracing.co. We'll put a link into the description of the episode on both Apple, Spotify, and onto YouTube as well. I'm sure it's already on the screen on YouTube too. Paul, the very best of luck with the Graham Lee Racing Club. Your role as director of the Good Racing Company. I got to talk to you about it last year when it was announced that that's what you were going to do after retiring. How has that transition been for you? This is your first flat season without you actually. I know you're obviously still doing a little bit of writing out here and there because you were given a little bit of a spin on We've Got This, but how have you adjusted to life out of the saddle?
Do you know what? I've adjusted well. better than quite a lot who have retired. The only thing that got me was the other day. I was actually at Doncaster the first day of the flat, and it just felt so strange. I hadn't missed Doncaster first meeting in 8 years, and I was there putting a saddle on a 2-year-old and legging the jockey up. Very strange, but I've been very busy, very active, and there's certainly a lot to keep me busy.
Well, best of luck for the new season, and most importantly, best of luck with the Good Racing Company and the Graham Lee Racing Club. All information at thegoodracing.co. Take it from there for £17. You don't really need to know a whole lot more, but all the information for you is right there, and do please sign up and become involved. Tell your friends, tell your family members, tell your colleagues about it as well. And for that matter, tell them about the Final Furlong podcast now on YouTube. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Great insight from Paige Fuller. Fantastic stuff from Paul Hanagan. We'll talk to Paul again about the flat, touchwood, please God, in a couple of weeks and get his insights into horses to follow for the new season. If you like this episode, a like on YouTube and a subscribe is much appreciated so you never miss an episode. From Paul, Paige and myself, we'll talk to you again very, very soon. Look after yourself and each other.